Welcome to the Athletic Foundations Workshop Series. Today we have Janice Ward presenting Speaking with Confidence, Tools to Become a More Powerful Speaker. JB is an experienced communicator by a lot, and I'm very, very thankful to have her on here to share her expertise one more time with us. JB, take it away.
All right. Well, Coach Taylor, thank you so much. And good afternoon to everybody that is on the call today. I am excited that you all are here. This is an area that, the saying goes that if you found the thing that you would be willing to do for free and you would do it, this is that thing that I would do for free every day. And they said that means you found what you love and you found your passion. So I do enjoy doing these types of workshops, working with students of all ages. It's a skill set, I guess, that I kind of gained just through trial and error over the years. And I enjoy doing it. So I am happy to share with you some things that I've learned, some things that I've worked with my students and various clients on over time. As we move through the agenda this afternoon, there will be plenty of opportunities for you to ask questions. But at any point, if you would like for me to repeat something or expand on something a little bit, please work with your host, Coach Taylor, and let him know that you have a question, because I may not be looking at all of the prompts on Zoom. So as Coach Taylor said, welcome to Speaking with Confidence. Today, we're going to talk about some specific tools to help each of you become a more powerful speaker. One of my philosophies is that there is a public speaker in all of us. It is just the little person inside that for some, it's already at a really good place. And then for others, we have to work on it. And it is the type of thing, speaking in public, speaking in meetings and so forth. It's the kind of skill that we're always working on, and we always have room for improvement. Even somebody like myself, I've taught for years. I've done public speaking and training courses forever and ever, but I still need to, there are things that I learn sometimes from even from my students and from other people. So I want to start out today, like I always do. I like to kind of get to know the people that are in front of me, the people that we're going to be, hanging out with for a little while. So the first thing I want to ask is if everybody on the line can say a quick hello, tell me your name, and if you would, what do you do in about a sentence, and tell us why you joined today.
Who's going first?
It's me.
Hey guys, I'm Coach Neff. I train volleyball athletes. I run my volleyball academy. I help DJ with whatever help he needs to do. I'm a great wife and even better mom. So that's what I do. And I love to help people be their very, very best in whatever they choose to do. Cooking or athletics, or really inspiring, kind of what you said, people have their speaker inside of them. I really think people have everything inside of them for whatever they want to do. But one thing that lacks is oftentimes confidence. And even in us confident people, we lack confidence sometimes.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Certain days more confident than others.
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you for joining today.
Yes, ma'am.
I guess I'll go. Hi, I'm Daniel Heller. I'm a strength and conditioning coach outside of Seattle, Washington. And my primary population is youth athletes in individual sports, as mountain biking and figure skating. But
oh,
also
nice.
Wide range of other things I do.
Okay. And so, and
Daniel,
world. Is it Daniel or Coach Heller? How do I refer to you?
Let's go with Coach Heller.
Coach Heller, okay, good deal. So what do you kind of hope to get out of today, and what prompted you to join in today?
Well, I've been working closely with DJ on the webinar series. Not as closely as I would like to, but the public speaking side of things, I know when I did mine, I feel comfortable, but I know that there are things that I can improve on because I always strive to be better. And so when you presented, or when he invited me to come to yours, it was an opportunity to learn from somebody who teaches about public speaking. And so I'm hoping to gain a lot.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you for joining.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, I'm here. Yeah. I'm Coach DJ Taylor, and I am a strength and conditioning coach as well. I work mostly with high school athletes. I'm just excited to be here and learn more about public speaking. Coaching, you're always working the craft, and anytime you can tune your ability to interact and influence others, it's helpful. So I'm excited.
And Coach Taylor, I saw another person that's on the line, Walker.
Yes, let me unmute. I think I may have accidentally hit. Let's see. I think Nev may be saying something.
She's at work, so she said she wants to listen,
Okay.
but she might be with clients, so she might not be able to interact much.
Okay. Okay, thanks for letting us know. So just to jump right in, I want to just give you a little guide of where we're going today. And that's one of the things that we do learn in public speaking is when you are giving a talk or doing a training session like this, you do want to make sure that your audience knows what to expect and where to go. Not that you want them looking at their watch saying, oh, it should take her X number of minutes to get through each topic, but at least they know the road, the game plan, and they know the landscape. So we've already jumped into our opening and introduction. Well, we will spend our time, most of our time this afternoon, is walking through what I call a 10-point plan for confident speaking, for confident public speaking. And as I said, there'll be time at the end for questions, but please do feel free to ask them as we move along. But I do want to try to keep us on schedule, and then we will do a closing to wrap up. So one of the questions that I have heard, and you all have probably heard the same as well, is why do I need public speaking? I've had people that say, well, I'm never going to be in a position where I need to know how to speak. But in reality, regardless of the position that you're in, your professional position, whether you're in a community role, a community leadership role, or whatever, a teacher, all of you all that are on here, or some role in coaching, you need good public speaking skills, the ability to get in front of an audience, whether it's an audience of 1 or an audience of 500. And, maybe you won't ever do 500, but if you're, as you can see here, some of the pictures that we have, doctors, some people may not think about them of being in the role or ever needing to use their public speaking skills, but they may be given a talk about the latest and greatest medical breakthrough, or as a physician, you're talking to your patients and their families. All of that is in the realm of public speaking. Talk show host, just your teachers in the classroom, and I know on this call there are some of the participants that have experience with being in a classroom and giving presentations and giving talks. All of that falls into the realm of public speaking. Why we need to work on those skills constantly. And even for our young people, I encourage parents to work with their kids at a young age to help them to start to build that confidence, so that when it comes time for them to stand up in a classroom, for example, and give a report, or to just respond to a question from the teacher, they are not apprehensive about doing it. They have that level of confidence. And then maybe one day, who knows, that child or even somebody on this call might rise to the level of being the president of the United States, where you have to talk all the time. So continuing on, why do I need good public speaking skills? In my career here at UAB, being an instructor in a classroom in the College of Arts and Sciences. I've had the opportunity to work with tons of student athletes over the years. And I'll just share this little story with you real quick. I was in New Orleans in 2019, I believe, 2019, sitting in the Superdome at a football game. And there were two young men that came to sit near me. And I thought, they look familiar. And I looked at them again. I was like, okay, I know they've been my students before. And about that same time, one of them recognized me and they go, oh, Miss Ward, it's so good to see you. How are you? And what a coincidence, in this entire arena or stadium, these two students, former students of mine, sat next to me. And they have been students in my public speaking classes here at UAB. And they shared with me how over the years, I mean, they've graduated probably 10 years ago or whatever, and they're out in their careers. I think one of them may have played professional ball for a while, but they share with me how some of what they learned in the classroom had translated to what they were doing now and when they were in professional sports. I've had that happen other instances as well, where students will come back and they'll say, oh my goodness, I didn't think I needed those skills when I was in class. I thought, okay, I've got to take the course, so I'll take it. But now that they've transitioned to even, again, being professional athletes, you know, you're put at the mic, you know, do a press conference or whatever, they are able to use those skills. So that's one of my stories about how we can see down the road, where maybe at first we don't see the benefit, but we do see down the road why public speaking skills are essential to what we do. Because the thing to keep in mind is we're communicating every day. I mean, you could be in any setting at any time and be asked to give a presentation, to give a short, brief, what we call impromptu talk, or to just give your opinion about something, or in some of the professional environments we work in on a daily basis here at UAB. Well, tell me about what your department does. And it's a spur of the moment. Or respond to Jane Doe across the table. She had a question. What does she need to know? Those impromptu opportunities come up all the time. And you'll see that one of the kind of food for thought items that I will share talks about taking advantage of those opportunities whenever they come. And it's all part of the plan to make you a more confident speaker. So again, part of my philosophy is strong public speaking skills can open so many doors for your future. Just like I shared with you about some of the student athletes that I've worked with over the years. I have one young man who is an accountant. He's a very good accountant somewhere, I think on the West Coast at this moment. He was a student athlete, maybe not quite thinking about his professional life beyond, you know, football at that time, but now he is leading a team. So having those strong speaking skills where you can articulate your ideas, you can be persuasive when you need to, you can stay on point. Those skills are so critical as far as opening up doors and opportunities for you. I would say that, and Coach Neal can correct me, I would say that if she didn't have a level of confidence when it's time to talk to parents and talk to them about why it's important for their girls to come to Blackout Academy, for example. If she was shy and couldn't open her mouth, couldn't talk, looking down when she's speaking to them, or, you know, are just not confident or able to articulate her ideas, I mean, she's selling her business. She's selling the business, the idea. She is selling why this is important. If you can't do that, if you don't have that level of confidence, then her business would not be in the position where it is at this moment. Recently, and Coach Neb, you have to tell me when it was, you did a spot on a local TV station. Well, if you don't have good public speaking skills, you don't get the opportunity to do that. You have to be able to articulate about your business, work within a, you know, when you're doing TV, you're working in just a completely different environment, cameras on. I think you may have done a remote, though, right, Coach Neb?
Yeah, like it wasn't the studio, it was just like camera. So that made it even kind of more weird, because I think when I'm with a person, it's easy, but when I'm with microphone or something, it's like, where do I look?
It's different.
Like, it's.
Yes, it is very different. And when I've done stuff in the TV studio, it's like the lights and then just that kind of, oh, I'm in a TV studio moment where you feel a little awkward. But it definitely, the point with that all is it requires skills. And this is one of those great opportunities where having those skills opens doors for you. So moving us right along. Again, just kind of setting the stage for when do we use them, especially, and I've used some of these examples because you all are familiar with and or continue to work with student athletes at different stages. I come from a background, like I said, I've taught lots of student athletes. My son was a student athlete, college student athlete, and then became a college Division I coach. So I've been around athletics and had exposure and sat in, you know, various scenarios related to athletics, college athletics. And so here's an example of how coming from being an athlete, a student athlete, moving into the profession, professional life, where now you need those public speaking skills. Chalk talks all the time. Last week when we played here at UAB, the head coach was working with the group, so he didn't get to do his normal chalk talk with the boosters. So he sends an assistant. Well, that assistant had to have some training to be able to go and to talk to this group of people. Division I basketball coaches are doing radio and TV interviews all the time. When you're in, say, for example, when you're in conference play, well, you have to split the team up. The head coach is doing an interview somewhere else where the assistants and the associates may have to fill in and do some others. So everybody needs to have those skills, even if you're quote unquote just an assistant, as someone might say. Your pregame speech that you give to the team, that's public speaking, motivational. I'm sure you all have been student athletes yourself, so you know what that's like. But I'm fascinated when I can see, you know, footage on Twitter or something where they've gone in the locker room like before a game and the coach is, you know, giving his, and I don't want to call it a pep talk because it's much at a higher level than just a pep talk, but it's motivating and getting the team riled up and ready to go. Addressing your donors and your boosters. You've got to be able to sell your program, tell them what's coming, be open and transparent, you know, and all that. So staff interviews, you know, in these roles as basketball coaches. And again, this is just my example. I know it goes across, runs the gamut, but you're doing staff interviews. You might hire an assistant, you might hire an ops guy or a video guy, interviewing for coaching positions for yourself. That's part of, you know, when you've got strong speaking skills in your portfolio, that helps you to be able to articulate what you can bring to the table as a new coach, assistant, head coach, or whatever. Meeting with, and I put Nike on here because that's, again, in my wheelhouse, working with Nike or working with Adidas or Under Armour, whoever it is. But those are all examples of taking a role, one singular role, like an assistant coach, and using your public speaking skills in lots of different ways, in lots of different venues. So did anybody have any questions or any comments at this moment? And Coach Taylor, you'll have to keep me locked in on time if you feel like I'm going over on anything, just so that we can stay within our 1 hour or so time frame. Please, sir.
You are great so far.
Okay, awesome. So what does it mean when we say we want to develop ourselves to become a strong speaker or a stronger speaker than where we are? A couple of times when Coach Taylor and I have talked, he's used the word elevate. And I like that term because, like I said, all of us have the little speaker inside of us, just like we have other talents, but you have to do something to elevate them to another level. And by the way, Coach Taylor, someone has taken the name Elevate Communications and made it a business. It's a local person here in the Birmingham area. And that's the name of her company, is Elevate Communications.
I will be looking them up.
Yes, and as a matter of fact, she's a former media person, I think. But she's been around quite some time. Her name is Deborah Nelson. I think that's her company, I believe. And she worked for Mercedes down in Tuscaloosa for a while. So what does it mean to be a strong speaker? We're able to, one, effectively present our ideas and our thoughts. Lots of people, well, everybody has ideas and opinions, but being able to articulate them in a way that other people can relate to what you're saying, other people, or if you're trying to, get somebody excited about something, you have to be able to present in a way and come across in a way that whoever's listening to you, they're excited as well. I go back to the coaching thing. If you can't motivate your team, giving them a talk or whatever, then, those probably some of those games when, best laid game plan is just not executed very well. Being persuasive. I mean, that could be anything from your kids, coming in and trying to convince you that they should go spend the night with one of their best friends. They're already working on those persuasive skills at that point. But at the same time, it could be something much more impactful than spending the night with a friend. You may want to persuade somebody, who knows? Somebody on here may want to run for office. Like I said, Coach Nev is signing people up to come to the academy. Being persuasive is part of the public speaking portfolio. Depending on what it is, we switch. At some point, we may be just providing information, but then there are times when we do need to be persuasive. Get people to act on your ideas and your proposals. I can't tell you how many times even in my current role where I am, I have an idea about how I think something can work better, something we should invest in, or something we should do. Well, I have to make a pitch in front of our leadership to let them know what the benefits are and essentially convince them that they should support my ideas or let me at least move forward with the proposal. I work with a nonprofit organization as well. So I've had conversations with people trying to persuade them to get on board with what we're trying to do. Why is it a benefit? Who is it helping? What do they get out of it? Most everybody comes to the table, you ask them to do something and they're going to say, well, what do I get out of it? What's in it for me? Convey or articulate your vision. We all, depending on where we are, and again, I go back to Coach Neil, I'm not picking on you today, I promise, but you're just a great example of when you start your business. I am sure that a lot of what you had to do was to articulate what your vision was. If people can't see what you see and be able to see down the road how they can be a part of that, then again, you don't get as far in the game as, pun intended, as you like, if you're not able to articulate that vision and articulate it in a way that the other people can see what you see. And that's part of leadership too. And hopefully, Coach Taylor, we do get to do a series or at least one session on leadership communication, because yes, part of being a good leader is being able to communicate and articulate your vision. Oh, to entertain, I don't know, maybe Coach Taylor is good at that. Coach Taylor, maybe you can tell me if he is or not, but I will tell you, I'm not very good at entertaining. I'm really not. I'm limited on stories. I fall flat on telling jokes. So that's kind of out of the realm for me. But some people have the natural ability to do that. And sometimes you're called on to do that. Inform people about important topics. People seek information, people need information presented to them in a logical way. When you look at, again, I go back to, the highest office in the land, and that's, President of the United States, president of a university, leader of the department, like I am. I have to be able to share and inform people about important topics. Drill it back down to even, I think, Coach Taylor, you had 2 students when we did this back in June that were going to, I think they were doing interviews for
2 were
college, I think.
interviewing, actually, both for jobs. One for a sport coaching job, a head position actually, and
Okay.
it's crazy great opportunity. She got it.
Awesome.
And she actually, I didn't forward that to you. She said thank you for your
Okay.
help. You gave her a lot of confidence. And then also the other one, she got the job she interviewed for.
Good.
And both attested to the communication being or this presentation helping them.
Well, good.
And
And then
actually, there
I'm
was a third in the room, um,
right.
and he interviewed for what was it? Physical therapy school,
Okay.
and he got in.
Awesome. Okay. Is he here at UAB?
Actually, yes.
Okay. Well,
Hmm.
good, because I
Well, he
understand
starts
it's a
next year.
competitive program. I understand it's a very competitive program. So so that's those examples that you're going through actually is sort of when you're combining both. I mean, you're persuading, this persuasive element. Why should I get this job, or why should I be admitted or accepted rather into your PT program, where you're combining the persuasiveness of public speaking as well as the informative. And then we always talk about, just making, being a better student. If a student is called on to, to respond to something in a classroom, same thing in your role, same thing in my role. If I'm sitting at like we have a monthly leadership council meeting, equity leadership council meeting here. And, sometimes I'm not even going in the room thinking that I'm not speaking per se. It's nothing formal. I'm not on the agenda formally, but there are times something might come up where I need to be a better, participant or a better director at that point, because I need to share some information. So again, just want to give us, and these are just some of the high points that I like to share, but I want to jump in for the next few minutes and walk through the 10-point plan that I like to use. And we're going to just jump right there. Any questions you have, like I said, raise your hand, or we can wait and answer questions at the end. So when we talk about the topic, this is where it gets actually a little tricky for people. You may say, well, I want to talk about X. I want to talk about how I can be a better coach. Well, okay, that can go in a lot of different directions. So that's one big overarching subject. Now I have to drill it down. So if you think of a funnel, at the top, you've got a really wide mouth. But how do I drill down and make it smaller, make it into a more manageable piece of information, a more manageable topic to present to whoever the group is? So when you are either in your roles that you're in as coaches, as business leaders or community leaders, when you are invited, sometimes when you're invited to speak, you are given a specific topic, and you still may have to narrow it down because you're working within a finite amount of time, 30 minutes. You can talk forever about what you do. You can talk forever about your career or about your business, but you need to be able to, again, think from the funnel perspective down to the finer point, what's going to be most impactful. What I have found with both clients of mine and with students is that people get married to topics. Well, I want to talk about how to be a better mother. Okay, well, there's millions of ways that you can approach that topic. I want to talk about how I can help how we can help student athletes be more successful, where there are tons of ways that you can approach that subject, but I need you to narrow it down to a topic. So maybe the topic is student athletes need tutors, and you're going to talk about just the tutoring and how tutoring helps improve the classroom performance. We're still talking about how we can help student athletes be successful, but you're not talking about the big room. You're bringing it down to a small point of the overall subject. And sometimes that's a little hard to do. We have to be willing to do a little brainstorming and start to do process of elimination and get to the finer point. Most speeches, like I said, most talks, like with our students in a classroom, we're working with like a 5 to 7 minute or 7 to 8 minute speech. And we're trying to get them to bring this big overall subject down to a 5 to 7 minutes, which means you got to think about your intro, you think about the body, you got to think about the closing. But we want to spend time on the topic. kind of the takeaway from this is you're most likely the first idea that jumps into your head is I'm going to talk about X, and it's the more broader topic, but you'll have to work to get it to something that's more manageable. Think about it in pieces and parts. What is the piece that will be most impactful? Now, I'm going to move going to the right just because my brain kind of works left to right in a logical sequence most days. But in terms of research, we have opinions about everything, but think about what information, what supporting information you can provide. I'm going to go back to my example about helping student athletes be successful. And then I nail my topic down to work tutoring. Tutoring for student athletes will improve their success in the classroom. Let's use that as a topic. So yeah, I've got opinions about how that might help, but what information can I use to bolster my idea or my thoughts? So do I talk to academic advisors at the Division I college that I know, or at a college that I know? Do I go to the internet for research? Do I look on the NCAA? Perhaps they've got some information about programs that are in place or initiatives that are in place. But research is looking for that information that can help support what you are wanting to talk about. So it's not just your ideas. You have something basically to back it up. So I do want to get out of order this time and go back to the left here, and bear with me. I did not plug up my computer, and it is telling me the battery is critically low, it says. So just give me a second and let me get plugged in. That way I won't lose you.
No pressure.
I carry this thing around every day. So it's plugging it in, letting it charge, unplugging it again.
Will she make it? Did you make it?
Yes, I did. So I'm all plugged in, so we should be good to go. So I want to go back. This time I want to move over to the left and talk about writing and organizing. I had a student that he told us that he had worked in San Francisco giving tours, being a tour guide for, I don't know, one of the streetcars or anyway, tourists, some of those touristy, destinations you'll go on, and there's a tour guide telling you, what's on the left, what's on the right, and so forth. And he was very good at just talking, just getting in the classroom and just talking. But when it came time for him to do what we talked about, get his topic, do his research, and now he has to put it on paper and he has to put it in some order. He has to give it some structure. It was very hard for him to be able to do that. I gave him outline examples. I offered to help him to take all this information and put it in some format. He just could not do it. And this was an older guy. It wasn't my typical, 18, 19, 20-year-olds. It was an older guy, older as in like 40. Not to make anybody feel old on here, but older than your typical college undergrad student. And he literally he wasn't successful in the class because that was part of the classroom. It was a classroom experience. Part of the course requirement was for him to do the outline, write the speech out, and be able to give it following this, structure. And he just could not do it. But if I had said to him, okay, you just get up in the classroom and just start talking, he probably could have talked for 40 minutes. Again, it was a unique situation. And I share that to say that some different strategies work for different people. I typically, personally, will use some type of outline so that I am making my ideas coherent. I'm making sure they follow some logic, some order. And in doing so and putting it on paper in some draft outline format, I'm able to see, well, no, we need to talk about just like this, the way this is laid out. When I put this together, I had bullets. I had 1, 2, 3, 4, and the mechanics came as number 3. Well, the more I sit here and talk about it, the mechanics really should be further in the list because it just flows better. come up with my topic, do my research, write it out. Now I go to the practice and the preparation. So that's what organizing your speech helps you to do. What does your outline, for example, how you organize the speech makes it easier for your audience to follow you. Mentally, your audience needs to kind of have a sense of, okay, well, she's giving me an intro. Now she's going to talk about this. Now she's going to talk about the next thing. So when you're doing your outlines, you're just a sketch outline. When you're doing that, think about a sentence that helps you transition from one thing to the next. So let's say in the intro, in the introduction, you're just kind of telling them just a high level, an introduction should really be no more than a minute for sure. If it's 5 minutes long, you've lost your audience by now. So your intro really should be about a minute. And if you think about, so let's say if you're giving a 30-minute speech, make sure your intro is not longer than 10% of the speech. You want to spend the most of your time in the body of the speech, the nuts and bolts, the meat of the speech. So organizing it, I've got my intro. I'm glad to see everybody. Today we're going to talk about X. A transition statement will be, now we're going to begin this conversation talking about student athletes and their performance, how they perform better when they have tutors. So one sentence lets your audience know, it's called a transition, lets your audience know that you're moving from one point to the next, and they can keep up with you. Mentally, they need to know, where are we going? So when you have somebody who just likes to talk and they get up in a room, like the guy that I mentioned before, had I let him do that, he could have literally been all over the place. Part of my role at UAB sometimes is to coach the student commencement speakers. And I had a guy that it was just a stream of conscious for him. He drafted out his speech. He went from being in a bar in Florida to doing the Florida State Tomahawk thing to walking across the street at UAB and how intimidating that was, back to the bar again and being with Black people, white people, all that. So this is how he had proposed that his commencement speech go. Well, when you're doing a commencement speech at a college, well, there are some protocols you have to follow. One of them is, it's not necessarily written, but you really don't want to yell out another school's name when you're doing the commencement for this school. So it probably wouldn't have been good for him to do the Florida State Tomahawk thing in the middle of his commencement speech at UAB. So it was one of the most challenging speeches that I'd ever worked with, because it's like, what's the common theme here? Because he had not followed any kind of organization, any kind of structure. What are the 3 main things that you want your audience to know? That's the easiest thing to do. I'm going to talk about X. What are the 3 main things that I want people to know? And that becomes Roman number 1, Roman number 2, Roman number 3, which are your 3 parts of the body of your speech. And then you start building out the details for each one of those. But he just was all over the place. And like I said, I had to look for themes. Is there a theme running through here? First of all, let's X out the Florida State Seminole thing. Let's get rid of that. And let's X out the part about the beer and the bar that he put in here twice. You probably don't want to talk about that as your college experience. So, but anyway, I said all that to say that that's why it's important that you get your research done. And it doesn't have to be anything formal when you organize. In a classroom setting, yes, we expect it to be a little bit more formal, but at least put your ideas on paper. Even if you just start out with bullet points, see if the information you have fits into these categories. Like I said, basically just a basic structure is to try to talk about 3 key things. Anything more than that, even in a 30-minute presentation or whatever, is a little bit much, and you tend to lose your audience. Any questions or comments on that? So now I want to talk about your voice. Your voice can either be a strength for you or a weakness for you as a speaker. Your voice, obviously, you're speaking, but if you are like, I have people who can't project very well. I tend to project probably too much. Like I said, I'm in my office today, and I have a neighbor, so I hope I'm not projecting way too much today that she can, hear me through the walls. But it's important as a speaker to be able to project. You got to show energy. You bring all that with your voice. And I'll talk about some of the other mechanics that helps you to do that as well. If you talk very low, nobody can hear you. You don't want to be in a room giving a speech and the people in the back say, we can't hear you. And you do have that to happen. And you want to make sure that your voice you're not yelling and screaming, but that you project, and this is where the confidence come in too. People can hear whether you're confident or not in your voice. So we'll talk about rehearsals and prepping in a minute, but your voice can either be a strength or a weakness. So just make sure that your voice is strong, you project well, and that you continue to work to improve that area of your speaking. Now, talk about the mechanics just for a moment. I call them mechanics because, like I said, you do these other things. You're going to get your topic nailed down. You're going to do your research. You're going to organize and write your speech. So I'm working on my voice. So the mechanics, things like breathing. So when you write a speech, I've had students, and most of us kind of fall into this trap, I guess, is we tend to write a speech just like we would an essay, where we may have long sentences. We use, conjunctions and all this. Trying to push out a very long sentence in a breath is difficult. So when you're writing a speech, you want to think about things more in phrases. And it's okay to do phrases. Everything doesn't have to be. Now, of course, stay grammatically correct, follow the basic English structure, but think about putting things in phrases in shorter sentences, because when you're breathing, if you're already, got butterflies, you're a little bit nervous or whatever, and you're having to spit out this very long sentence, it's harder to do, number one. It's harder for your audience to follow along. Again, it's taking a bigger something and putting it into chunks. So bigger something, putting it in chunks helps you to push it out a lot better than you pushing out a whole long sentence about your time in the bar with the white and black people in Florida and in it with the tomahawk, whatever thing. So breathing, when you are in a setting where you are being introduced. So let's say we were doing this in person. And while I'm waiting, for Coach Taylor to do the introduction, and now I'm going to get up, most people think that as soon as you step to the mic or you step up in the room, that you have to start talking. You really need to give yourself a second. It may seem like a long time to you, but it's not. Just a second to kind of do an inhale, exhale, not a out loud side, but just this kind of little thing to, quote unquote, really kind of catch your breath, and not just from the adrenaline of standing up, the energy you use to stand up, and you're already breathing a little bit differently, and now you just want to jump in and start talking real fast. That's how people, kind of get off track. And it actually makes people more nervous when they're trying to do all of this in the first week. Just take a couple of seconds, calm yourself, breathe out, if you have to, take a deep breath, even if you're just like turning the page. I've done that, I'm giving myself secretly a few minutes to kind of get set. So it's kind of like a reset. Once you get to the mic, do a reset. Even here today, I did that when I was switching from just a general conversation that Coach Taylor and I were having over to, it's like, okay, now game on, we're ready. So we're switching gears here. Your posture, all of these are the mechanics that helps you to project more and speak with more confidence. If you all are probably all too young on here to remember a movie from way back when And it was about a sheriff that didn't have a gun. You know, he just used his stature, so to speak, his physical stature. And he had a big stick too, but he used his physical stature more to rule than a gun. And it's kind of the thing here. You're walking tall, standing tall. When you walk up to the mic, even your posture, you know, upright, shoulders back. I'm confident, I know what I'm doing, and it helps you to walk in and own the room. That's what you're trying to do. So in your nonverbals, I think I shared this, Coach Taylor, with one of your other groups. I have all kinds of student stories, but we had a student that just did not know what to do with her gestures. We talked about gestures in the classroom. So her idea of gestures was just to kind of, you know, I said, you got to keep your hands, can't be doing this the whole time. And I hope y'all can see that. You got to make sure your gestures have a purpose. And she went from her hands flying all over the place to, I said, your gestures, like if you're trying to emphasize a point, you might, you know, do, well, I really want you to know X. This is important. Those are gestures. So she went from, this is what I intended. You can't see me doing here, but just if you can picture a person standing at a lectern, and every time she said something that she thought was really, really important, you thought that she was the little guy that you see when you're on a plane and you're looking out the window and he's doing this, telling the plane to come back kind of thing. She was doing that a lot, or she was just kind of, you thought she's about to take off in a minute because her arms just kind of kept flapping. And we had to talk about it. We had to coach on it. We had to work on it. My point with that is definitely use gestures. Some people talk with their hands more than others. I can see everybody. So who on here, typically you'd say you talk with your hands? Okay. So it's become like a natural extension of what you're saying, right? Okay. So that is great because that's a little bit less that you have to learn. Some people don't use their hands at all. They literally do not know what to do with their hands. And you don't want to give a speech with your hands down to your side, because then that, first of all, it just looks awkward and it feels awkward. Have any of you ever watched any of the TED Talks before? So I coached when Birmingham, we had TED Talks here in Birmingham, and I coached a few of the speakers, and their rules are, at that time, they were a little weird, where they kind of broke the norms of public speaking, like what we teach in the classroom. They're like, no, don't do that. They have to stand in this literally it's an 18-inch circle. They have to stand in it. They can't do a whole lot of walking around, and they're not supposed to do a lot of gestures. Some of it is because they're they're trying to make sure they're in the right spots for the cameras to pick them up. And they're like, if your hands and stuff are moving all over the place, the cameras can't keep up with you, and it just looks weird on camera. So like I said, it was hard for me to coach for a while, because I'm like, oh, you know, I believe in gestures, you know, and they were telling them to hold their hands down to their sides. One of the guys that I coached is actually a public speaking instructor down at University of Alabama. And he's the same way. He was like, this is so hard for me. I can't just stand still. This is not how I operate. But gestures should be purposeful, help to emphasize your point. You don't have to use them the entire time that you are speaking. But some of the simple things, gestures help give, again, this kind of visual guidepost. It lets your audience know this is something important. This is something I should take note of. So when I am doing my intro, I might say something like, okay, we're going to cover 3 things today. First, we're going to cover this. Second, we're going to cover that. Then we're going to cover this. So that's, you know, probably one of the most common ones, but emphasizing points, you know, showing space. I can't really show you on here. It's a little harder, but when you're trying to connect to the audience, one of the things you do is you kind of open your arms up. You might say like, well, all of us here today, and you open your arms. So these are the kinds of gestures that I'm talking about. And that's a whole class on itself. As a matter of fact, nonverbals is 2 courses in communication studies. So that just shows you how important it is to the communication process. So moving us right along, and I think I'm a little bit over. Coach Taylor, do you want me to keep going? I'm going to be over a little bit.
Just keep going. You're good.
And I assume you're going to edit out everything that before everybody got online. So we should
Right.
end up about 45 minutes anyway.
We will.
Yes. Okay. All right. Moving right along on the 10-point plan. Practice does make perfect. It gets you as close to perfect as possible. If you can, and the key takeaway on this is practice as much as you can in an environment that's going to look like your real speech day. So, and I say that, and here's an example. Sometimes students will tend to want to just sit down. I've written a speech out. They just want to sit down and read it. Well, you're not going to sit when you present. Stand up in the room, stand up at a dining room table, kitchen counter, stand in front of a mirror, record yourself so that you can see what it looks like. You want to mimic as close as you can to what the real day speech experience is going to look like. Clients that I've worked with, I worked with the lady a few years ago. She was giving a speech down at the Harbor Center downtown, and it's a big room. She'd never spoken in a room that big before. It's a little, odd dynamics in there. You have to like walk up some steps and you're sitting on the stage and all that. So she wanted to get a feel for the room. So we literally scheduled a time for her to go and be in the room and walk through her speech so she could kind of work on all the things. You don't always get an opportunity to do that. If you can, by all means, I suggest that you do. I flew out to Arizona a few years ago to do a speech. I was so glad when organizers said, we can meet you at 5:00 p.m. the day before to let you do a walkthrough in the room so that I could just get a feel for, the dynamics of the room, just some sense of where the audience is sitting and, how my gestures and all that I had planned on using would work, and where's the mic going to be, all that good stuff. Know the purpose of your speech. In order to do that, you ask yourself this: at the end of my speech or my presentation, I want my audience to know or do what? That's how you can tell, okay, what's the purpose? What is the key takeaway? Ask yourself, I want my audience to know or do what at the end of my speech? Tell a good story. Like I said, I've had to work on it. I still continue to work on telling stories. I'm not good at that. I have to really work at it. Some people are better than others, but telling stories helps make your point. It helps make the topic relatable to the audience. It's a way to connect with your audience as well, so that you're not just an object in the room talking to them, but you are a real person. You're a person maybe that's experienced what you're talking about. But learn to tell a story. And Coach Taylor, we can talk about that in maybe one of our other series a little bit more. Preparation. Don't wait till the last minute. Do your organization, do your writing, do your rehearsal. Let somebody else take a look at your work because we know what it should say. We know what it should look like, but it helps sometimes to get that objective outside voice. To kind of look at it and say, well, I think maybe you should move this here, or maybe you should take that word out. Or sometimes it's a word we want to use. Like I have words that I am terrible at pronouncing, or words that when I do pronounce them, I hope all our words aren't that way, but certain words just really, really come out with a strong Southern accent. So it's like, let's take that out. So all of this goes into your preparation so that on, game day, speech day, you're ready, to go. And you don't look like you just put this together, last night. Presentation aids. The go-to for most people is still probably PowerPoint or some other type of slide presentation builder. And what people try to do a little bit more though is to not make a PowerPoint slide deck so content heavy. That's been something I've learned more about working with our IT people here when we're doing training and presentations and things like that. They're like, people don't want to, see all this text. Give them a picture, give them a one-liner. And I've even tried to do a little bit more here. You can use posters, use videos. People do like videos. If you use videos, just make them something short that, people can see, get the point, get the message, see it as an example and move on. You don't want to make it your presentation. And maybe you break it up into a couple of snippets, same video, but maybe you break it up into snippets, show a little bit, talk about it, show a little bit more, and then go from there. Obviously, photos are very impactful. If you can use images to show the action or the result or whatever it is you're trying to communicate in your speech, people, relate to photos. And if you can get photos of real people, that's great. But some examples in photos. So this is just food for thought that I'll go through very quickly. So audience analysis. Before Coach Taylor and I, when we've worked together, I always ask him, okay, who's going to be in your audience? Talk a little bit about age range. Are they college students? Are they adults? Are they coaches? We had that conversation earlier today because I needed to know, do I need to change some things on the fly, talk a little bit different, include something, exclude something based on who's in the audience. Your audience analysis also extends to the physical place where you're going to speak. Like I mentioned, I'm in Arizona. I'm so glad that I got to walk into the room. I didn't want to see the room for the first time on the morning of. I was the first speaker that morning. I didn't want to, do that, or just have a feel for what does the lectern look like. They tell you one is going to be there, but how big is it? Is it one that's so deep that if I put my paper on it, I'm looking down the entire time? Is it a small one? Do I have room for a bottle of water? Little things like that make a difference in how your delivery comes across. Like I said, you don't always get in front of your space, but if at all possible, try to. And if you can't physically get there, maybe they can send you photos, or maybe just ask them to describe to you what the audience is going to be like. People are going to be at round tables. They're going to be at long tables. If they're at round tables, some people are going to have their back to you. Okay, so do you walk around more because some of your people have their back to you? And it's easier for you to connect with them and engage with them if you can get up close to them. Are you up on a stage where it's almost impossible for you to walk down and walk out into your audience? Like in this Arizona event, it was a little harder for me to come down off the stage, because then I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to fall. And that would really be entertaining, it goes from informative to real entertaining in a hurry. I mentioned earlier, jump at the chance to speak. Whenever somebody says, hey, you want to give a talk? Do you want to share some ideas? Do you want to talk a little bit about what you do? Say yes, because it helps. All of these things help to build your confidence as a speaker. Credibility. The things that I'm sharing, are they proven? Can I back them up somewhere? Make sure that you're not telling people false information that you know to be false, or you're just keep ethics and credibility in mind when you're presenting, whatever it may be. Butterflies and nerves. You guys have been student athletes before, been in competition. I tend to ask my football players more, tell me, what is it like when you're back there, you're waiting to come out of the tunnel, and then all of a sudden you get to come out. Is it all this adrenaline? And they're like, oh, yeah. And I'll ask them, I said, well, when does it kind of start to subside for you? And some people say, well, as soon as kickoff happens, then it starts to settle in, assuming they are not on the field. I hope they've settled down, but, and I wonder when I see them, the guys out there getting ready for kickoff, and somebody's like, got vertical leap of 40 or something, they're just jumping around on the field. Like, is it part of their pumped up, kind of thing, or what? But I use that analogy in that the butterflies that we have, nerves, I don't even like to use the word nerves because it tends to have a negative connotation. But butterflies, it's just adrenaline looking for somewhere to go. And typically after you start talking, the first 30 seconds or so into your intro, those nerves, those butterflies tend to calm down and it'll subside, and then you can kind of keep moving. But just the whole idea is don't be afraid of them. It's just a natural part of your energy. Has to have somewhere to go. Like if I got up from my desk that I'm sitting at right now and walked, well, okay, all of a sudden my adrenaline is changing, and that's all that it is. Some people have it more than others. Some people are able to control it more than others. one technique that I always tell people about is it's so important if you can know your introduction, if you know even the first few lines of your introduction, that way you get up, you can start talking, and you're not thinking about, oh my God, I'm nervous, what am I going to say? And then you're not sure what to say. And it just kind of, increases the anxiety. So that is, we're at the end. Everybody is a public speaker. Like I said, everybody's got a speaker in there somewhere. We just need to learn how to elevate, hone those skills, and get to the level of being confident. So